Hey everyone, welcome back, and I wanted to say we finally reached over 10 subscribers, and I want to thank you guys so much for following my channel. Thank you so much, you guys are awesome. With that said, let's jump right in. Number 1. Hi, my name is Scorpion Z28. I'm a former assassin. Actually, that's my code name. My real name, even I don't know it. I barely know anything actually. All my memories dating from before my 13th birthday are a blur or non-existent. I'm pretty sure I never met my father or mother, but I always had my sister, or at least that's how I used to call her. She was the only person in the whole world that cared about me. The people of the orphanage weren't mean, but I never felt the way I felt with my sister when I was with them. That might be because I was very sick. They always gave me shots and meds, and every 2 days I'd have to go see the doctor who would perform tests and surgeries on me. Then, I was transferred to where I work now, far away from sister. I had a place to live, food, and entertainment. I didn't quite understand my job at first. Didn't think much of it at first either. Never did anyone tell me that killing was bad. So when they told me I had a special talent at it, I was excited. But recently, that all changed. Like I said, I am a former assassin. I did my fair share of killing. How much? I don't know. Probably in the hundreds. I was working within a corporate, but I worked alone. Didn't want to share the money. To my knowledge, the company was one that ran its business on the deep web or dark web. Something about medical experimentations for wealthy fucks that would go any length to get cured, even if it meant sacrificing hundreds to produce a cure. My job was to kill anyone that got wind of the experimentations, or any person the company wanted me to kill. But since I worked alone, I also took requests myself from other clients, and recently, I quit my job because of a fellow assassin. It was a few months back. I woke up in my room on the minus 45th floor of the establishment. Yes, minus 45. The base was built underground. On the surface, it looks like any other research facilities, but underground, it was like walking into hell. Now I know it. It wasn't always this way. It was during an assignment. I had to eliminate a rogue employee of the corporate. I was given little information about him, but the man in the suit made it clear it was my most important job ever. So I packed up and the hunting began. Like I expected, he was good. Nearly lost an arm fighting him. I won't go into details, it would be too complicated, but if you guys want, I'd gladly write another post telling the fight. When I finally immobilized him, that's when things got dark. From now on, I'll write the conversation as it happened. Shadow F48, his codename. Please, don't kill me yet. I have things I need to tell you. Please, you're wrong. They are not who you think they are. Sobbing. Scorpion Z28. What do you mean? Curiosity took over me. Shadow F48. I am also an assassin. We're the same. Hear me out. Oh my god. Obviously in distress. Scorpion Z28. What is it? Tell me. Shadow F48. Do you know why they want me dead, even if I worked and killed for them for the past 27 years? Don't you find it shady? It's because I saw things. Things I shouldn't have seen. The fear in his eyes intensified and also getting more agitated. Scorpion Z28. What did you see? Shadow F48. Did you ask yourself why you weren't allowed anywhere else in the base other than the floor 45? Did you ask yourself why we could only take the same elevator that only relayed our floor and ground level? It's because the other floors are hell. Starts giggling and the fear in his eyes gets even more intense. Scorpion Z28. What do you mean? Shadow F48. Giggling. They are killing them by the hundreds. Oh my god! He then started screaming. They were children! They don't fucking care. Do you understand? They don't fucking care who they are. Not their age, not their sex, nothing. They were cutting up his fucking limbs and spooning out his eyes. They were planting these bugs in him. Oh my fucking hell. Ha 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 ha. Scorpion Z28. What the fuck? Then I killed him. Going back to base, I could still hear his words and that fucking laughter. Curiosity killed the cat. I didn't care. I needed to see what he saw with my own eyes. I changed and made my way into the elevator and randomly clicked a floor. The descent was killing. When the doors finally opened, I regretted my decision instantly. Hundreds of people, young, old, man, woman, disabled, were strapped in surgical beds, while 2 or 3 doctors performed experiments on them. One little boy, not older than 9, had a black substance coming out of his empty eye sockets, while things that resembled the shape and size of cockroaches crawled under his skin. The noise coming out of his gaping mouth was horrible. It was screaming, mixed with crunching. Like if you stepped on a dozen of cockroaches. Then there was one woman. She was strapped tightly on a table while a tube flowing with a white substance seemed to enter her mouth and make its way down her throat, all the way into her abdomen. She was also giving birth to hundreds of creatures. They resembled dog fetuses, but had wing-like features. The woman was obviously in distress and immense pain. All this lasted a few seconds before I pushed the ground level button and let the door hide that horrifying sight from my eyes. That was a few months ago. Now, I'm hiding. I still take jobs from private clients. I need to eat, right? But it's a matter of time before another killer from that company comes for me. This is a warning. If you ever stumble over that company, go. Run for it. Don't actively search for it. You won't find it. It's hidden. The deep web isn't like what you think. And also, don't look for me. You won't find me. Don't get yourself involved in this shit. You'll only regret it. I wouldn't want anyone else getting strapped into those fucking beds. Number 2. My sister and I have also been close. Even if she is 15 and I'm 18, we bond very well. I have no problem with her hanging out with my friends. She understands internet lingo and is quite funny. She even browses this site sometimes, so this is one of our absolute favorite subreddits, along with nosleep. We both have a niche for horror and something that will make it hard for us to sleep at night. We love deep web stories and they have become pretty popular recently. Our love for it got the best of us, so we decided to check it out. A quick Google search and you can find everything you need to dive right into it. So we got a throwaway laptop from our dad. He was an IT guy and has a warehouse full of vacant laptops. So he gave us one without any suspicion. I wish my dad did at the time. So there we were in my room. Our parents had gone out for dinner and her and I ordered pizza. "Let me do it," my naive little sister, her name is Jenny by the way, insisted. "You can't have greasy fingers." I downloaded Tor and we were ready to roll. The first couple sites were just some weird satanic cult websites declaring that Obama is the devil and some other bullshit. We weren't, I guess, looking to find what you hear some other people find, like sites where you get to see people tortured in the most heinous ways. Just curious. The next site was showing us different aliens. We were both cracking up. They were taking cartoon characters and putting them into a weird filter. My girlfriend called, so I left the room for a bit. When I came back, my sister was giggling and having a good time. "What are you doing?" "I found this website where you talk to a little puppy dog." She wasn't wrong. There was a golden lab pouncing up and down the screen, barking. You would type something in and it would type something back. I looked at their chat and it was just some silly things. "Look, I'll show you." She started to type, "What's your name?" in the textbook. As soon as she pressed enter, it took a second to reply, and then it replied, "My name is Maxie. I'm a puppy." The animated dog then started to lick the screen. It was pretty adorable, but as an older brother, I didn't want to tell my little sister that. I then pulled at the laptop, then she yanked it back to herself. "No, I want to use it," she protested. That's when the dog barked and it had typed something into the chat bar.
"Brian, let your sister have it."
"Did you tell it my name?" I asked, and she then slid the laptop over to me. "No, I don't want to play anymore." That's when the little dog was transformed to what looked like a webcam with shitty quality and a guy with a President Bill Clinton mask.
"Hello there."
The person was using a voice changer because they sounded exactly like Jenny. They waved their leather-gloved hand at the screen. "Brian, turn it off!" Jenny screamed while trying to hit the power button.
"No need to worry, Jenny. We will meet soon."
The stranger grabbed the webcam and started to shake it violently, creating a wind noise. I didn't say a word and slammed the laptop screen shut. There was 10 seconds of bliss, silent, till a sinister laugh that sounded deep blasted through the speakers. Jenny was crying and ran out of the room, and I ran out after her. "Jenny, everything is okay." I held onto her shoulders as she slumped down to the floor. "No, it's not." She peeped out between hiccups. "Jenny, what did you tell it?" She swiped her tears off and then stared up at me with glassy eyes. "My age. There was a joke. I didn't tell it where we lived, but it guessed, okay? I thought it. I don't know." I was livid. "Are you fucking kidding me?" I shook her. "You kept talking to it?" She then pushed me off her and locked herself in the room. I know I'm the one to blame, letting my underage sister browse the deep web with me. I went back into the room and bashed the laptop against the wall. Pieces flew left and right, and finally it was broken. The next day, my mom and my girlfriend were going out to a party for my mom's work. No children were allowed. I begged my mom as such as I could have a babysitter come look after Jenny. I would have asked to let her go to a friend's house, but she didn't have any. My dad was away on a business trip, and my girlfriend wouldn't let me miss out on this, so we left her home alone. I told her to lock the door and call the police if anything happened. We went through the whole night. Not one text message from her, or no call from the police. It ended up being a pretty great night. We dropped my girlfriend off, and when we got home, nothing seemed out of place. We unlocked the front door. My mom called out for Jenny, and she wasn't answering. My heart dropped. It was like her to pull a sick joke like this, so I sprinted up to her room. She wasn't there. I hear my mother scream out. When I got downstairs, there was a note, and it said,
"Dear the family of Jenny, thank you so much for her. We can't express our gratitude to your whole family. And you, Brian, thank you for introducing us to her."
Next to the letter was $100,000, neatly stacked and folded in a bunch of piles. The police are working on finding my little sister. It's been a week. No leads. I hope this won't be a cold case. Number 3. I need to buy myself off the deep web before someone else does. I don't know how much time I have. I saw the offer hours ago. The only thing I could do now is tell you how I happened upon myself. It's really stupid. Really, really fucking stupid. I was trying to impress my friends. We were all enrolled in IT classes at our school. We would take turns seeing who could bring up the most fucked up shit we could find. It started with showing our friends websites on the deep web people could buy drugs from. Drugs we had never even heard of. That got boring real quick. Other friends began upping their contest to try and stand out in the game of, "I'm more tech savvy than you." They would bring more and more pictures, each more disgusting and gruesome than the last. Pictures of people dying, people being raped and tortured in unimaginable ways, people that were already dead. One person brought up a child porn site, a child porn snuff site. Instead of people saying exactly how fucked up this was and how this should all stop, and how this should have never began in the first place, and how stupid this was, and how much danger we were in. They congratulated her, gave her pats on the back, asked her how she could even sit down properly in her computer chair because of how big her balls were. I felt like vomiting. I felt like beating the ever-loving shit out of everybody that couldn't believe how fucked up it was to see finding child snuff porn on the internet as an accomplishment. I didn't say anything though. They began to notice that I never even showed off anything myself. Pussy slowly became my new nickname at school. School became a living hell for me. My friends began shoving these horrible pictures of my face whenever they could. When I cried and vomited, they claimed they were trying to desensitize me. Everything became too much, though. I promised myself I wouldn't venture too deep, that I would only stay long enough to find something that would appease them. At this point, we were long past the point of finding cool drugs or what else. I knew I had to find something that would hold importance. At this point, I had been on the deep web for 3 hours. 5 hours was what it took to put an offer for me on the deep web. At one point, I remember opening a seemingly blank page. Immediately, the light next to my computer camera flashed briefly, 5 or so seconds. I minimized my browser to close photo booth, only to find that it wasn't even open. I didn't even think of it. I was tired and had school the next day, so I closed everything and went to sleep. The next few days went the same as the last, until yesterday. When I walked in, everyone was huddled around one desk, talking in hushed voices. A few of the girls were crying, and all of them were pale and covered in sweat. I didn't want to see whatever had caused this reaction. Nobody even noticed I had walked in until after the class had started. I caught several of them staring at me during the class. They had probably planned a new way to make me go home sobbing. I tried to leave class as quickly as I could, but one of them caught me by the shoulder and spun me around. "We need to talk." His voice was quivering and his clammy, trembling hands were soaking through my t-shirt. He led me to the back of the classroom where other students were, in the same shape as him, or worse, were huddled. He began passing out pictures. When it was my turn, I told them that I didn't want to see whatever they had. "No, you have to see this." Something about the way he said it told me that this was serious, and it wasn't just regular bullying. I cracked open one eye. I saw a girl on the paper, along with some sort of description and a price. I opened my eyes further and saw that it was an ad of some sort. I thought, oh, this isn't that bad. It hadn't fully hit me yet, until I read what was in the description. "Hi, it's me again. Back with some more for you guys. This one looks fairly young, with a bit of extra weight on her. I don't know, need to get more pictures. I think it was her first time here. She wasn't protected at all, it was so easy." Enough about that, though. For now, her starting price is $118,000. And we'll go up or down when we get more pictures and do the physical inspection. Anyways, we'll keep you updated. There was a picture of me, staring at my computer intently. I had no social media. The only picture of me were ones I had taken with a group. There were so many emotions swirling through me. One that stood above all was confusion. The crippling fear was lurking in the shadows for now. How had this person gotten this picture of me? My mind went back to when the light next to my camera turned on. One question answered. Next, the paralyzing fear set in. I felt my heart stop completely, then beat violently in my throat and ears. My stomach dropped. My eyes searched furiously over the paper for any information about me. I felt relief at the fact that my full name, along with my address, wasn't there. That all came crashing down when I realized that the person who had posted the ad had these, but chose not to put them in the description in case anybody wanted to grab me without paying. I knew without a doubt that the others were going to be sold too. I passed out. I woke up in the nurse's office who told me I had a fever. My mom picked me up and took me home. I went straight to my room and locked the door. I haven't even touched my personal computer since. I put tape over my phone camera, even though I know my efforts are futile. Everything I hear now is someone out to get me. The only sick thing that comforts me now is that the pretty bitches that made me do this in the first place are going to sell quicker than me. Number 4. I took a little break for a few days before I decided to go back in the true red rooms. I paid my Bitcoin and got sent a new password. It took a few days before they sent it to me along with another username. I guess this is how they managed to keep it so secretive so that way people couldn't be tracked. I put in my username and password on the first page. This particular red room, number 2, brought you to another page that asked for my password. So instead of one page, it went through 2. I guess for extra protection. A bright red screen flashing big bold black letters, read Live Dissections Inc. Underneath the black box was a list of IP addresses that were being recorded. Beside each one were the words permitted or banned. I assumed some people abused their privilege on this site or possibly tried to hack it. They wanted those people to know that they were being watched. As for the rules written on the site, they were simple. 1. You can pick and choose from a list of surgical tools. There were cranium drills, bone saws, rib knives, and all types of cutting and dissecting instruments. The list went on and on. 2. You must keep paying Bitcoin to keep playing. You communicate what you want done to the victim through the chat box. You are not allowed to chat with other users or make comments to them. 5 users popped up in the chat box, including me. Your waiting time is 5 minutes, popped up on the black screen. Then the live stream began to start. I took a deep breath. A man who is obviously sedated is lying in what looks like an old green dentist chair. He is in a blue hospital gown. His wrists and ankles are strapped down. 2 people in doctor scrubs and masks were injecting him in the arm with 2 different needles. Then the messages started popping up on the chat box. One user typed,
I want to see an amputation of the arm, please.
Another said,
Drill his head open and pull his skin down over his face like they do with the autopsies.
Another user wanted a complete organ dissection. Other users typed in foreign languages that I couldn't understand. Ugh, I wanted to puke. I could clearly see the poor man had labored breathing. They must have already had him really sedated. All these people were sickly bidding on what they wanted to see. The surgery that won was the arm amputation. I was glad I would not have to view the other 2. I don't think I could stomach it. The user CDeadRiser5893 must have paid the most Bitcoin. I saw one of the surgeons grab a scalpel as the camera zoomed in. Then he began to cut through the man's hairy arm, right above the elbow. Yuck, the guy was alive and dark red blood started gushing out of his arm onto the floor. You could see the muscles twitching underneath as the camera zoomed in on the pink, fleshy, bloody mess. Now, CDeadRiser5893 was typing in the chat box.
Yes. Oh yes, this is fucking amazing. I'm getting off right now on this shit.
What looked to be a huge towel or gauze pad was placed between the cut, open tissue, and stuck in completely through the arm. You could see it hanging out the other side. The hairs on my neck began to stand up. He then began to move it back and forth through the tissue in a sawing motion. He was cutting the remaining attached tendons and ligaments, I guessed. Suddenly, the man started to wake up and moan in pain. His eyes looked a bit squinty. He looked down and literally passed out. They injected him again with the needle. I wanted to look away. Another user named Urgent Surge 666, who seemed to know all the steps of an amputation, typed,
Use the bone saw and cut it off.
Now, what looked to be like a bone saw was picked up. It looked very eerie with its sharp little teeth like points. The surgeon gave a thumbs up to the camera and began to saw straight through. The saw hummed as I could see little particles of white bone going up in the air. Scissors were used to finish cutting away the globs of flesh, with still left in place. And just like that, the arm was pulled away. The surgeon tossed it towards the camera. It hit the ground with a loud splat. I wanted to turn the computer off. Our victim was now an amputee. There was a lot of blood coming out. The victim started turning an ashen gray color. This guy was going to die and bleed out. Do you want the artery to be clamped off, or do you want him to bleed out? Popped on the message in the chat box. One person typed no, and CDeadRiser5893 said,
Let him bleed out, man. He's not going to want to wake up after all of this.
I couldn't believe how casual he was about leading this man to his impending death. I found myself yelling at the computer, "Clamp it off! Clamp it off!" I knew if I wanted results, I would have to pay more Bitcoin, so I did. I typed in, "Clamp it, save his life." I was this poor guy's lifeline, while he was at the mercy of a bunch of crazy people who wanted him dead. My heart was beating out of my chest. I was sweating, about to have a panic attack. "Kelly clamps," shouted the surgeon. I felt relief as he clamped the bleeding artery off. Thank God. Then the nub was dressed with gauze to stop any extra bleeding. The worst part was when the guy finally woke up. He was laying there for about 15 minutes and the surgeons were slapping him on the face and laughing. Laughing. He was coming to and in shock. I could see the surgeons undoing the straps and helping him sit up. How the hell could they laugh at what they just did to this poor man? They almost killed him and took a part of his body away for no goddamn reason. For what? All of the expense of someone else's pleasure. It made me sick. The man looked down and his eyes bulged out. He looked to be in disbelief. "My arm!" he shouted with a hoarse-sounding voice. I could see the nub moving as if he were trying to figure out where his arm went. His mouth hung wide open. The surgeons were patting him on the back. He began to cry. One of the surgeons motioned for the camera to be shut off. Everything went black. The live stream was over. I shuddered. Unfortunately, I still had 3 rooms to go. Number 5. I work for a huge company that helps bring down bad websites on the web. I cannot reveal the name here, but I have been doing this for many years now. A few years ago, I discovered a group of red rooms called the 5 True Red Rooms on the deepweb. Now, don't go looking around trying to find them, because you won't. A true red room cannot be accessed through Tor. If you try, you will just set yourself up for getting a shitty virus on your computer. I have been told that they are scams, but rest assure you, a few of them are not. It is very hard for an individual who doesn't understand the concept of the 5 True Red Rooms to try and break in. Let's just say, you have to know someone that runs one. It cannot be accessed through Tor. You have to know someone, or be lucky enough to get a passcode to get into them. You have to be proven trustworthy. In this case, I gained the trust of someone who helped moderate one. The True Red Rooms are a series of 5 rooms, sort of like doors. If you gain access to the first red room, then you pay Bitcoin and show that you're serious, then you can get permission to access the second red room, and so on. What's in these evil live streams? I'll tell you. Here it is, the first True Red Room. I clicked on the first screen. A black box appeared asking for my passcode. I had typed it in. It was 4 numbers, a dash, and my username given to access to the site. Permission granted, it said. I was in. I thought it was too easy. On the first page was a bunch of black video boxes with titles. Some of them were videos titled, "Watch Me Scare Kara," or "Tiffany Gets Spooked." I clicked on the "Watch Me Scare Kara" first. A man with what seemed to be a cell phone camera is pointing it towards the front door. He is inside a home. It looks like he's hiding behind a door, and I can see the living room furniture. A nice leather love seat and bookshelves are in the room. He is whispering in a foreign language that I cannot understand. He never shows his face. Suddenly, the doorknob is turning and I hear keys rattling. A girl in a green nurse's outfit with blonde hair and a tan comes in. She is petite looking. She is probably in her 20s. Suddenly, I hear a man's voice scream, "Don't move!" She freezes like a deer in the headlights and then screams, drops her keys. A man in all black and a black ski mask is running towards her with a giant hammer. Her arms go up. She screams to block him and he smacks her in the head twice with the hammer. She falls to the ground and red blood pools up on the white carpet. She is completely knocked out. The man points to the man who is hiding behind the door and says what sounds like the words "done." Both cameras are shut off. If this was real, it was the most disturbing thing I have ever seen. It did not look fake at all. I did not want to know what happened next. I could only imagine. I didn't even want to click on the second video, but I did. The next video, Tiffany Gets Spooked, was even worse. This time, the camera zoomed in on what looks to be a park. A woman with brown hair and a blue jogging suit is running laps around a track. The foreign-sounding guy is sitting in what appears to be his car. I can see the cracked windshield. He is wearing black gloves, but never shows his face. He is laughing and talking a little, and the girl is still jogging. I wanted to yell to the poor girl, "Run away! Get out of the park, you're being stalked!" I realized there was nothing I could do. She wouldn't be able to hear me anyways. Suddenly, the camera shuts off. I think the video's over. I was wrong. Very wrong. The video comes back on in what looks like night vision. It is green and a little choppy. I can see what looks like a bunch of pine trees around. Then I see what the camera is focusing on. A girl is in what looks like a trunk, and she's trying to scream. Her legs and arms are tied and bound, and her mouth has a gag in it. It looks like the same girl from earlier in the blue jogging suit. She is barefoot. I can only see black gloves and a hairy-looking arm. It looks like the same guy from the earlier video. He is in all black and is smoothing her hair back, and the man holding the camera is telling her to calm down in English. She's crying. Then he begins to pull her body out of the trunk. Thunk. He bumps her head by accident on the trunk lid. I feel relieved, thinking it's all a joke and she'll be okay. Suddenly, I feel very sickened. I can't believe what they were going to do. The man in black with the black ski mask lays her on the ground and she gives up crying and screaming at this point. The camera zooms in on her face. The lights go out in her eyes and all I can see is darkness. This poor girl has lost all hope. I wanted to cry. I was fighting back the tears. They began to tie her wrist to the bumper of the car. The cameraman is still there holding the camera. The other man gets in the car. I hear the engine roar. They were going to drag her behind it. And then the video cuts off. Number 6. My story starts where it seems more and more people's come from nowadays. The deep web, or dark web. However you refer to it, it's always in regards to the same place. A place where one attains complete anonymity and can buy, sell, or just display anything they want with no fear of the law. Now, for mutual benefit, I will omit anything in regards to the identity of myself or any of my colleagues' aliases will be used. That being said, I am Kane. So, as I am sure you have figured out by now that I am one of the less savory people who can be found on the deep web. I'll start off with how I got here. I am ex-military, and of what nation I will not designate. That alone is enough to explain the rest to anyone who is something of a regular on the deep web. I was down on my luck with a shit-paying job, though that being said, I can't say I didn't enjoy being a computer technician. I was in engineering school, but dropped out and decided to join the military, and with that on my papers, I spent a decent amount of time understanding the minute details that go into every communication to signal. Going in, I thought I was just going to remain a tech. That impression stayed with me until a mortar shell took out half my base's communication center and damn near took my left leg with it. I was placed into physical therapy and thus forth discharged from the military after showing signs of PTSD. My leg was functional, but even though it appears mutilated and covered with scars from both surgical steel and rusted shrapnel. After 7 months of meth addiction and narrowly avoided assault charge, I got myself a job, got clean, and under wraps amassed enough parts to make a decent computer. I don't remember when I first heard of the deep web. I can, however, recall when I found the page that got me where I am today, Hitman for Hire. The front was very plain and almost stern in its presence as the header. I scrolled through the sprawling pages of locations where this apparent organization had branches in Hitman. You couldn't see the details of where the branches were located unless you were a member. When I signed in with Secure Inbox Host, a dialog box appeared on the screen. It should be noted now that this organization is very real. If you join the site as a joke, your information will be distributed in our newsletter. What happens next will simply be nature taking its course. If you are law enforcement, your information will be collected. That of your family will be as well. At the time, the idea of actually becoming a hired gun hadn't been an intrusive thought, but I pushed it aside. Things remained that way until I saw the rates, along with a new tab that appeared after I logged in labeled Apply. The full process of applying is something I cannot go into detail about. I can only tell you that it started with a chat window taking up the entire screen. It only had one message in the thread. Type yes if you are serious about this and willing to follow through. Or if you have changed your mind, type no, and this window will close. If you type yes, there is no turning back. Though, if type no, the application button will always be there in case you reconsider. Sincerely, the site owner. I wanted to say that this disclaimer gave me chills or something like that, but in all honesty, I was almost giddy to type yes. I'm sure that says something about my mental state, though in this line of work, most people won't be concerned with that. Another window then opened up, and it was apparent that I was now in a video call with someone. Their face was distorted, as was their voice, but I did understand what was being said to me. I was asked every bit of information I could ever be asked about myself in that moment, short of inquiring about my bank account and social security number. Considering the information I have so far, I believe we can screen you in person as soon as most convenient to you. The guttural sounds of the voice banging on my eardrums as they slid through lips and seemed to hiss like a snake from some sort of lisp. How are you today? I responded vocally, semi-sarcastic. That is more doable than you think, Mr. Keeter. Would you like me to mark that down? It was then, and only then, that I had found myself in a state of shock, as though everything else had drifted through a haze. I didn't speak, I simply nodded, and with that, the call dropped, and one last message appeared in the chat window. Be at this location in exactly 1 hour. If you have a preferred concealable weapon, you are welcome to bring them, though we cannot guarantee that they will pass official inspection. In which case, you are not authorized to be used in the field and you will return to your residence. At your wishes, we may retrieve any inspection passing arms from your residence, and at your request, they will be primed for peak performance. Reading the paragraph is what truly drove home what I had to agree to do. I scrambled through my closet to find my M1911 and several magazines, dressed in my least noticeable attire, and proceeded to the area where I then walked about in a large radius to get my bearings. The location was along a storm runoff, the overpass of which was a walking trail adorned with benches. I was to sit in the center, north-facing bench. It was early in the morning, no later than 5:30 when I heard rapid footsteps to my right. In the distance was a jogger, in full work attire. I had been sitting on that bench for no less than 3 hours, entirely alone. I was half asleep until the rhythmic beat of a man's shoes jostled me and nearly caused me to reach for my gun, but something in me knew he was neither a threat nor my new employer. I watched him as he approached the incline of the overpass and gave me an acknowledging nod as he passed. I was so focused on him, I hadn't realized there was another person near until out of the corner of my eye, I saw them lunge out of the bench next to mine. Before I could react, I watched the silhouette of what seemed to be a small-framed person shadow eclipse the face of a man as I heard the unmistakable sound of a knife penetrating flesh. The gargles of the jogger on his own blood. That was the first thing I could clearly make out about the situation. The assailant had not moments later become clear. Judging from their size, wasn't even close to reaching their 20s. I finally snapped entirely awake as I saw the young figure holding a knife through the man's throat. From the angle, I was on a bench, and I could see clearly that the knife had entered through one side and gouged straight through the other side. I could see the ripples off the man's muscle tissue as the assailant pulled the knife askew and ripped it from the now deceased corpse. The The blood sprayed like a punctured fire hose as the body fell to the ground with a solid thump, and who I could now recognize as a young boy turned back to me. I froze up, meeting his gaze. I couldn't make sense of what I was seeing. What I can only describe as a Hot Topic dwelling gothic mall rat extending a hand to me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the body convulsing slightly as the last of the blood spurted from its sliced and torn flesh. As my mouth hung agape at the scene that had unfolded before me, the boy was still looking at me. Said with a smirk, "What? Expected a black suit and sunglasses? You've watched too many movies." He shook his head pitifully before grabbing my hand and hoisting me to my feet, his hand still covered in blood. "And from me, that is saying something," he said as he crudely wiped his hands on his sweater, him too now staring at the puddle of blood and open throat from which it came. He turned back to me and furrowed his brow, as if to say, "Yes, that is it." I came to know the kid as Seth. He told me that he was from France originally. He got into the trade after escaping a human trafficking ring when he was 13. He continued on to explain how he went on to kill 2 criminal kingpins, and how unlike me the organization came to him, and that he enjoyed seeing fresh faces come in ever since it expanded to the deep web. As cheerful as his voice was, there was a distinct coldness to his presence that has stayed with me to this day. Something about what he was saying to me, and how he said it, had me silent the whole way to the van he led me to. 2 men sat in the front, and in the back there were 3 more people. A man sitting at a makeshift desk at the back corner who never turned from the screen. Another man seeming to be in a mental state not dissimilar to my own at that point. And next to him, a woman in a sundress polishing a .44 Magnum. Adam, the nervous man, was a new recruit like me. The lady next to him introduced herself as May. Her disposition was more similar to that of Seth, who sat next to me while making indistinct small talk with May. "I've been in this line of work for a month now. I was given clearance to document this so long as certain names and specific locations were not mentioned. I see Seth often now. His involvement in bringing me in also made him my superior. I would have protested had my ass not have been handed to me in basic training. I had also seen Adam and May during the training sessions. May asked me how I was warming up to the new job the way someone would if you were working as a clerk. She told me that she had actually trained Seth herself, and that after he rose through the ranks at astounding speed, they would always go on recruitment runs together. It's really something when you start him young." After which she just laughed and walked on to the briefing office. "Yeah, really is," I replied.